Namaste. Welcome to Urban Chatteraki. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I have with me Kirti Joshi, who lives in Bangalore and who has been following the recent developments in this Corona time, and has also has been helping out people in their hour of need. So, Kirti, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abhinav, and hello to you and to everyone. Thank you for having me.
So, Kirti, you have been following what is happening in Bangalore of late. You
Yes.
have been closely following this BBMP hospital bed scam, which is in news, and there's lots of controversy around it. So why don't you
Yes.
first explain us what the scam was all about,
Yeah.
what happened, and how did your member of parliament, Tejasvi Surya, step
Yes.
in?
Yeah. So since last couple of weeks, the situation in Bangalore has been deteriorating. We were somewhere around 40,000 cases, and it just started going now northwards, and we are somewhere near 50, 52 now. Yesterday, we overtook Maharashtra. So the situation was deteriorating, and the demand for beds was ever increasing. And also, along with that, we also had the news every day that so many people got discharged, and so many ICU beds are obviously not consequently vacant. And this should have ideally been reflected in the BBMP website, the place where we get the information of all the availability of different hospitals and its beds, whether it's a oxygenated bed, whether it's an ICU bed or a ventilator bed. All this information is put together in a place inside the BBMP website. And whenever we would get a request, the first place of looking up is obviously this website. So at no point in day or night, you look at this website, the availability would show at least one or two beds. At least one or two requests we can fulfill. That itself was a huge task. And because the number was always zero, there was always a suspicion as to how this allocation is happening in the first place. So this was the first of instigators, or sort of an indicator for us to think that there was some wrongdoing happening in the back end. This was the first indicator. And second was there were growing voices of citizens within the constituency alleging that there are irregularities within the bed allocation software. And hence it led MP Tejasvi Surya's office to look into how this allocation was made. So when the attempts were made to get an insight as to how these allocations happen in the war room, there was always a constant resistance, almost denial by the BBMP officials from stepping inside the war room. And the usual answer would be that no, this would become political, and leaders from other political parties also may try to enter, and we don't want this situation. And this was understandable. And even the offer was made to improve the processes by bringing in more technology and such, which was always not entertained. Right. So, but after a lot of persistence and a lot of following it up with authorities, the MP Tejasvi Surya's office was able to get their hands on a huge bunch of data, almost 1 lakh plus bed allocations that were made during last few weeks in BBMP. And when we
Digital data or the paper data?
It was digital data. And once we started looking into the allocations and sort of try to make sense out of the whole data set, a few things became very obvious to us. The first thing was there were more than 4,000 allocations that were made by the BBMP war room. Which were specifically made on those BU numbers. BU numbers are the numbers for reference that are tagged to a COVID positive patient. So these were tagged to asymptomatic home quarantining patients who did not need any bed in the first place. So when they don't require a bed, why do you have to book a bed on their name, right? This is the first question you ask. And the fact that the beds would get auto unblocked, or you manually unblock these beds, led to further more suspicion into this whole arrangement. This was the first finding. Second finding was that during a particular time in the night, especially in the wee hours of the midnight, the beds would get, they would come into the open, meaning somebody might have gotten discharged or somebody might have died. So the bed would free up and they would show up on the system. In the next 1 minute, the allocation would happen. So 12 a.m., the bed is freed up. 12:01, the allocation happens. And 12:01, 0:30, 30 seconds, in the next 30 seconds, the admission also would happen. So how was this possible? Right? Unless you are having a very close coordination between somebody at the hospital with the patient who wants to get a bed and somebody who is himself sitting in the war room and doing this updations in the software, it was not possible. So a visible nexus was again seen in this finding. Right? And the proof of the pudding was when the team put out a fake SOS request into the open domain, and within a few hours, the team received agent's call saying that we would arrange a bed for you, and it would cost you money. Tell us if you're interested. So obviously we wanted to get to the bottom of this, and the team said we want to have a bed. All this while the software was still showing 0 beds, right? So this was all happening when the system was showing 0 beds. And when the agent made a demand, they started off with 80,000 rupees. So there are different categories in which you charge. So he basically explained that 2 days ago it was 80,000. Yesterday it has fallen slightly because the cases have come down. It is 40,000. So you give me 30,000 and we would arrange the bed for you. So after a little bit of bargaining, the price was fixed at 25K. And the agent shared his Google Pay number, her Google Pay number, and the transfer was made, and you had the bed. So how was this possible, right? When the bed allocation software was showing as 0 available beds. So this was conclusive evidence of a scam that was going on within the system. And then...
So did you use a genuine patient as a decoy, or...
It was a fake SOS request.
Fake SOS. So, yeah. Okay. But just to clarify, were you also involved in this entire thing? And do you work in the MP's office, or you are just volunteering in these times?
I am just volunteering in these times. But if you follow the facts closely, and since I have contact with some of these people who have investigated the case, I am aware of all these details. And then everything apart from these findings were made. It were made public by MP himself in the press conference. That was a pretty detailed press conference. For those who are interested in facts, they can watch it online. It must be there on YouTube. Then a whole series of things started. It got embroiled in controversy, and the main thing that was unearthed, that a scam was going on right below our noses, that was unearthed, and that got overshadowed by the whole communal angle that it took later on. But
yes, but what is that communal angle? Because here in Delhi, most of the people know that that member of parliament was targeting certain Muslim employees, and that's it. Yeah. No one knows about the hospital bed scam. No one has heard about it because all the headlines in the newspaper are about Muslim employees targeted and so on. So what happened? I mean, how did this angle come in?
Yeah, so I would say that it was deliberate on part of Congress to have communalized this issue. It is not actually Tejasvi who communalized it. I would directly accuse the opposition itself of communalizing this whole thing, because there are a certain very repeated accusations on Tejasvi. If you carefully observe, there are 3 or 4 basic accusations against him to brand him a bigot and communal person. But the facts are totally in contrast to these assertions made by the opposition. So what is the first accusation that you usually hear from the opposition side? That Tejasvi singled out 16 or 17 names out of a list of 206 employees. Why did he have to single out these 17 names out of 206? It is not he who singled out. It was officials of BBMP who handed over a list of employees who were sacked or who were restructured or who were asked not to continue with BBMP war room 2 days before the whole expose broke out. Right? So it was not Tejasvi or his team which singled out these 17 names for 206 out of 206 employees. And this accusation is peddled and pushed forward by Congress very deliberately because they saw an opportunity to communalize this. Because this is a narrative that people understand very easily, right?
Yeah. So, let me ask you. So these people were removed from the war room or they were suspended from the duty? And did that happen before you people
absolutely
understood the scam, or is just before that they got the wind that MP has got to know about this scam and so they did?
Yeah, it could be one of the scenarios, but it definitely happened before the expose broke out and the team was readying up to bring this whole thing out in the open. Mm-hmm. Right. So Tejasvi was not even in the picture when these 17 people were taken off their jobs.
Okay.
Right. It was absolutely BBMP's decision. Any accusations of singling out a certain community and taking them off the list of employees, it must be directed at BBMP. The reason for their dismissal, restructuring, sacking, whatever it is, it must be asked of BBMP. And their subsequent, they were taken back a few days ago. Right? Why were they taken back again? Was there any pressure to take them back again into the job? Again, this has to be answered by BBMP. Nowhere it is MP's involvement. And this has to be very, very clear to the listeners of the show. The suspensions happened 2 days before the expose, and there was absolutely no way in which Tejasvi could have singled out these 17 names out of a list of 206. And this is why I say, despite knowing this fact, Congress went ahead and put out that list of 206 employees and said out of this 206, 17 names were picked. Right? They saw an opportunity, they saw a communal angle to this, and it was absolutely their own doing that the whole incident got communal. So if there is anybody today who needs to be held accountable for communalizing this whole thing, for pontificating on how not to turn a pandemic into a communal issue, all these accusations must be directed at Congress and Congress alone. There are a lot of junior so-called Congress leaders in Karnataka. I wouldn't want to name them, but their day job has been to find out stuff against Tejasvi. This they have been doing right from the day I have seen them in Twitter. They have no other job in their lives whatsoever. All that they do is amplify such fake news. And this is what they have done in this case also. That goes to prove that the communal angle was manufactured and pushed forward by the Congress.
So there's this news that which is coming that Tejasvi went to the BBMC office and apologized to the people for wrongly dragging them into the controversy.
Yeah, hang on. Abhinav, before that, we need to clear a few more things related to these 17 people. That they were reinstated into the job after finding that there was no criminality or anything proved against them needs to be dissected further, because if you see the original video, nowhere in the whole video Tejasvi attributes any criminality to these people. Right? This fact often gets missed out by commentators, that he took out the names, but did he say that these people were guilty of bed allocation scam? No, he did not. He merely questioned the hiring process. He questioned who is the agency which hired them, and that's all. And any other untoward comment that was made during this incident might have come from other quarters, but not from Tejasvi. But even that fact, which is a very nuanced thing to observe in the video. If you are very observant, you will see that video. You will see that fact. It is attributed again to Tejasvi. Somebody else said something, and it is also attributed to Tejasvi just because they want to take him down. So again, it goes on to prove that it was absolutely Congress's intention to criminalize this thing, and they criminalized it. And of course, they will be proved innocent, right? There was no kind of assertion from MP's side that these are the people who have perpetrated the scam. And obviously, they will find nothing against them. And if they are reinstated back into the job, it is BBMP's decision. It doesn't prove anything about Tejasvi. It doesn't prove anything about the acquisition, because people today experience that. I'm not saying beds are available very easily in Bangalore, but out of 10 requests that we get today, at least 1 or 2 we are able to fulfill. And that itself is a huge indicator, right? That at least the system is improving. And if you see the improvements in the software part, we can come to it in a bit. These are some very commonsensical reforms that were not in place, and it took a MP to think this through and include them in the system, right? If you say that there were audio recordings which I had put out in a thread, wherein the MP's team called up these people who against whose name the beds were booked in different BBMP quota. As many as 12 times the beds were booked against the same patient. And when you call them up and ask them, hello, there is a bed booked in your name in so and so hospital, are you aware of it? They would say, we have no clue about this because we are perfectly fine. We took Dolo, whatever self-medication we knew, we consulted a doctor, whatever it is. They are fine at home and they are recovering, and they have no clue about this. And how can you book 12 times against the same name in 12 different places? So there was a definite scam in this whole episode. So we should dedicate some portion of this podcast to discussing only the solutions part of it, because I think they are very important, and we will come back to it.
So we know that a new system is being built to allocate beds to the people in Bengaluru.
Yes.
And Tejasvi Surya's office is the driving force behind it.
Yes.
What are the other solutions which Tejasvi Surya is trying to bring in this entire management of the pandemic, and especially the hospital beds?
Yeah, so now there is no manual unblocking of the beds, which is the first reform Tejasvi has brought in. The modus operandi of these scamsters was that you book a bed against a person who doesn't require it. Hold that bed for 2-3 hours or 4 hours until you find a customer for your bed. Then you manually unblock that bed and reallocate that bed out of turn to somebody who is willing to pay you against their BU number. So this was the scam. And now the new process doesn't allow this. Manual unblocking of beds is not allowed. And this is the first major reform. The second reform is that there is 2-factor authentication for people who are going to book these beds. There were earlier only generic logins that were allowed. In case you have the username and ID, you can also enter into the bed booking software, and you can book for anybody who is close to you or who is willing to pay you some money. So this is not allowed, and we can tag accountability to people who are booking these beds. This is the 2-factor authentication. Authentication is the second feature that is brought in. And third most important thing is the patient is now notified with a SMS. Right after you book a bed, the SMS is now going to the patient that so and so bed is booked in your name in this hospital. So please avail the services. So this is the third of the reforms, and it would be even more shocking to learn about this fact that if a patient doesn't avail a certain allocated bed, the system would keep that bed as allocated to somebody for 10 hours. So if in case somebody needed that bed, this bed would be lying vacant for 10 hours and nobody would occupy it, and somebody who would need it might miss out on that opportunity. So, but at the same time, you also have to allow certain time for a patient to commute to a certain hospital, which might be in a different part of the city. So now this 10-hour window has been now reduced to 4 hours, which is a reasonable window. And if the admission doesn't take place within 4 hours, that is unblocked again. So there is no scope or little room left for the scamsters now to play with the bed allocation. So these are the 4 specific reforms that he has brought in, and he has brought these features within 100 hours from exposing the whole scam. So he told that he will build these things within 100 hours, and he has built them in 100 hours.
Okay.
And within the next 100 hours, he has
benefiting from the Bangalore's tech capabilities.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. And within the next 100 hours, he has promised to put up a digital dashboard that would allow a patient to see where he is lying in a queue of patients. So this was a huge.
That's a great relief, actually. But people have some certainty; they know what the situation is.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have a clarity, right? You are going to either get a bed by tonight, or no, you will have to make some other arrangements. All this information is going to be very critical for patients and their attenders who are looking for some hospital facility. So this is what he is doing on the bed allocation side. One part is that. The other part is increasing the capacity of beds itself, right? For that, he has converted or kind of so there was a defunct hospital in his constituency, and in last 10 days he has been able to completely revamp that facility. And it has now, I believe, started operations with 50 beds, out of which 10 are ICU beds with ventilators. And this is the other dimension in which he is trying to augment the healthcare facility inside the city. Along with that, he has built I think he has a oxygen concentrator bank of close to 200 concentrators now. Within his own constituency, if you have the need for an oxygen concentrator, all that you have to do is dial the number which he has given out, and they will deliver the oxygen concentrator to your doorstep immediately. So for that, he has tied up with some auto associations in Bangalore. Again, he is bringing a lot of people together in this community service, right? You can't do everything on yourself, and you need a helping hand from all sides. So there are auto rickshaw drivers of Bangalore who are delivering these oxygen concentrators to the needy families. So he and of course we also know of the doctors' helpline that he has launched at the national level.
Yes.
More than 28,000 calls have been made to that doctor's helpline, and I think close to 6,000 of them have come from Karnataka itself. So there are multiple dimensions in which he is trying to operate and bring some relief. The whole pandemic itself is so overwhelming that no amount of preparation and no amount of efforts in a given day seem to be adequate given the overwhelming stature of this pandemic. But he's as visible from all the activities that he's doing. He's working more than one MP can in these times, and he really is helping out his.
True. So basically, Tejaswi Surya is working on providing technological solutions, making sure that the BBMP and other services work smoothly. Also bringing different stakeholders in the society together, like in this case, auto associations, volunteers, the companies, in order to provide certain basic requirements like oxygen concentrator to the people. I think that's a great approach to take. For a young MP that he is, but I think because he's young, that he understands these things better, like especially the technological part of the issues.
Yes.
But no wonder it's a politics, so people will try to attack you, they will target you. But what is important is that people should understand what the entire issue was all about. Because in the media, what we are hearing is about Muslim names, this name, not hearing anything about the real work being done. So.
Abhinav, I think we forgot to talk about one issue which you had raised in between, and we skipped it. It is about the apology part.
Sorry. Thanks for coming back to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So see, you should observe the pattern in which the Congress is operating, right? So first, they manufacture this lie that 16 names out of 206 were taken by Tejaswi. Then the next lie is that these 16, 17 people were dismissed on the behest of MP's allegations. that they were subjected to trauma. In fact, I was seeing a report today morning where somebody was saying that Tejasvi has himself subjected these 17 men to great trauma, and that is why they don't want to return to the war room, even after their reinstatement. So the first is 16 names out of 206. Second thing is he made arrangements for their dismissal. This is the second lie. Third lie is police has taken them into custody and they are investigating them in the month of Ramzan and traumatizing them, etc., etc. This is a third communal angle that they themselves have brought in. Fourth is no evidence has been found against these people and hence they have been released. Tejasvi has, unnecessarily because of his communal mindset, he has subjected them to great trauma and all that. He has punished the innocents. All these are I'm just listing all the allegations against him. And then after his reinstatement, before his reinstatement, Tejasvi has apologized for his behavior. All these are a series of lies, and it would end at these 17 people are reinstated and there is no scam, right? So this is very funny because everything that I have said in last 2 minutes is an outright lie, right from the listing out of 17 names out of 206. And at each stage, they have tried to push the narrative. And one such element of that narrative was that he apologized. This was specifically done to kind of send out a message that there was a guilt involved, right? Mm. When you apologize to something, it means that you are guilty of something. And this is like whitewashing all the scam that has taken place. And at the same time, passing a judgment that Tejasvi was wrong and kind of putting words in his own mouth by saying that he has apologized. Now he has to clarify that he has not apologized or there is no audio of such nature. And then it would again give them an opportunity to pontificate. Right. And they would even go to the extent of accusing one of the MLAs who accompanied Tejasvi to the war room. Right. There was a huge editorial published the very next day of the expose against a local MLA. And the headline read that BJP legislator is involved. But one of the sub-columns inside that editorial said that the MLA has rejected all these allegations. Obviously, the war room is situated in the vicinity of his constituency itself. So there is very easy means to attribute any kind of wrongdoing to his own partymen. So they have made him a scapegoat and they have tried to deflect the issue and they have kind of used all these different elements and went to an extent that he apologized for the whole thing, kind of confirming there was a guilt in the first place. All this is not true.
But he didn't apologize or any such.
He didn't. So a particular audio clip has been doing rounds in some of the media channels where an employee of the war room says that their numbers got leaked and people have been calling them up incessantly asking for beds and all that, and they are threatening them with different things. For that, he apologized for the leaking of numbers that went into public domain and subsequent harassment that the public themselves might have, subjected these war room employees to. For that, he apologized, and he also said in the same audio that his number, his team members' number, everything were also leaked into the public domain. I can send you a video where a certain person, a video of his phone, and for 5 minutes the phone continuously rings. There were fake messages sent out saying that Tejasvi is trying to organize beds for you, so you can call out to this number and you can this facility. All this was hoax, and all this was done to tarnishing Yati's image and bringing down the whole.
Let me come here. It's getting a bit confusing. So you are saying that Tejasvi apologized for some video clip which was leaked, but that was not leaked by him or his office, right? This is what
somebody recorded it.
Someone recorded and leaked it, and he said, so why did he apologize for it?
He as a caring human being, as a courteous human being, when your number is leaked to the public, right, you would obviously feel bad that you are being subjected to so many calls and so many might have been threats also to that person. So as a public representative, he said, I am sorry that your number is leaked and people are making threats. This would any responsible representative would do this. He has not apologized for.
But the number didn't leak from his office. This is what you were saying.
No. It did not leak from his office. In fact, his own team members' numbers were leaked
in the same video clip
by creating fake posters.
Okay.
That was a separate exercise in itself. So, as I said, there were multiple exercises that were launched to derail the whole process. So, if at all there is any element of apology that Tejasvi has made from his side, it is to that lady employee of BBMP War Room who was saying that the numbers have gotten leaked and we are getting so many calls. As a courteous fellow human being, also experiencing the load of a pandemic on the public healthcare system, he has made that courteous call and he has apologized that I'm sorry, I will instruct the police or whatever to have a look into this issue of your numbers getting leaked.
Thank you. That they have again twisted. Because this is what is doing rounds, that he went and apologized for that list, right? And this is a completely different issue we are talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. So, in all, what I am seeing is concerted attempts by local Congress leaders to negate every good thing that Tejasvi is doing in the constituency and in the country. And this might have been stemming out of a deep sense of insecurity, because even before the expose came out, there was a print article. There was I think today there was a Indian Express article saying he barged into the war room, with war cries against these 16 Muslims. No, that was not the case. He went there to investigate the scam. You keep on.
I missed that article, but that is Indian Express, so we can expect it.
Yeah, and the author is from JNU, so I don't want to brand JNU, but I'm not surprised. So that is another thing. So
Indian Express published a fake article on Israel today as well. That it starts with that Israeli security forces stormed into Al-Aqsa Mosque and attacked the people and so on, something like that. But the reality is completely different. Yeah. The violence started from the other side. The security forces entered to evacuate the mosque, right, instead of attacking people.
Exactly.
But this is how it is.
Exactly.
But anyways, thank you for coming to the show, for clarifying these issues, because many people just don't know what is the real thing all about. They have no knowledge about the nuances. All they're reading is this kind of bogus articles in Indian Express that he barged into the war room with the war cry against this and that. But thank you for your time, and we hope that Bangalore recovers fast, and hopefully Delhi and other parts of the country also recover very fast. And many thanks to Tejasvi Surya for the wonderful work he's doing in Bangalore.
Absolutely. Thanks to you, and thanks for clarifying a lot of things, because it is important to put out the right part of the whole narrative, right? Because otherwise all these things will be retained in the public memory, and they will keep using it again and again against
that will become the reference point 10 years down the line. So in any book written, that this is what will be written about him. But thank you, audience, for listening to us, and thank you for being a patron. Please subscribe to the channel. You can also join as the member, and hoping to see you soon with some other interesting topic. Thank you.